The Emperor's what now?
Book folded his arms across his chest skeptically. You repeat the name of the vessel.
The Emperor's discretion, huh? Well, this is a co-owned vessel. You call it what you want. I'm calling it Book's Brick. You can give your half to the Emperor. I'm keeping my half for me.
You grin to yourself and decide not to quibble with Book or explain your choice of name. It didn't matter. A vessel could have two names, you decide. You keep yourself busy aboard the Obaziana, learning a bit more about your Gauss rifles. Antarax has been studying forbidden Xenos technology, and the two of you worked out some arrangements where he is permitted to examine your Gauss rifle, though you put your foot down on weird experimentation that you're worried might destroy it. You simply want to know how to operate the thing safely and how to maintain it. You also begin to learn how to fly and operate the Emperor's Discretion / Book's Brick. Teresa was familiar with Imperial vessels, and was willing to teach you in exchange for helping her manage her contacts for the jobs in the next system. You knew she was a Schola Progenium dropout, but being little more than a career criminal yourself, you did not know much about the Schola program. But you did know that noble types were usually the ones attending. And Teresa did seem to have an air of nobility about her. She knew how to play the game, how to negotiate. She could hard or soft sell, threaten or cajole, depending on what would get her foot in the door and secure the contract. She enlisted you to do some simple organizational things, like keeping lists of who was still looking for work, and who she had already secured a contract for. She also would put you on the Vox call on occasion. You were startled the first time she asked you to do this, as you were not prepared for that kind of thing. I have to deal with all kinds, and some of them are cowardly, duplicitous piles of grok-stung who will only hold to their bargains if they believe they're dealing with a vicious criminal. Now, as you know, I am a vicious criminal, but you... Well, let me put it this way. When you're a cowardly idiot noble, and you picture a murderous psychopath who will not hesitate to kill you if they stab you in the back, well, they tend to imagine someone who sounds something like you. And I mean that in the best possible way, newbie. The next place of business was a prominent space station, Forbearance, at the heart of the Misery Corday system, with dozens of populated planets and moons. From your conversations with Teresa and bits and pieces of talk from around the ship, the system is a very old rogue trader colony established centuries before by House Xavier. The various planets and moons were home to a myriad of lesser Xenos races. House Xavier had been permitted to establish and regulate all trade in the system and rule over the Xenos as long as the colonies were profitable for the Imperium. And apparently the anti-Xenos propaganda of the Imperium that was typical has been set aside in favor of a veneer of tolerance of other species, and being united under the rule of the Emperor in order to prevent petty infighting between the various sentient races. You simply could not believe that such a place could exist. But money talks, and House Xavier has been successfully siphoning off resources from Misery Corday to the Imperium for centuries. And when it's enough money, you know, all but the most devout zealots will eventually stop asking questions about where it came from and how it was acquired. The worlds were ripe with opportunity, if one were able to get in the good graces of House Xavier. And you wondered how Kazzazel could have possibly gotten on the good side of Patriarch Ignatius. The Dark Eldar was more than happy to share the tale. Oh, it was an amusing situation. I attacked and disabled a heavily laden rogue trader vessel, with every intent of gorging myself on its wealth and enjoying the unbridled violence that the pitmongers would unleash on the place. Oh, and when all the dust settled, it turned out that I had attacked a vessel of House Dominique, a long-time rival to House Xavier. They had a few prisoners in their hold, and I put them on ice with the other pitmongers. Full kudos to Teresa for recognizing some of them as high-ranking members of House Xavier who'd been captured earlier. I think they thought that I might do something rather cruel and nasty to these captives. So they agreed to pay the ransom, and I have permission to operate in the system, under the watchful eye of House Xavier, of course. So more or less that means we have to work exclusively with House Xavier. But you know how many troubles those heavy-handed Imperials create for themselves? Oh, there's always a rebellion, or a union dispute, or an assassination attempt of some kind. Oh, there's always work to do. They mess so many things up. And it's a good place to give the pitmongers some exercise, as well as refill their numbers. Ignatius is never short on prisoners, and I'm more than happy to thin their numbers out a bit for him. You continue your training regimen and working with Teresa. She has a very good head on her shoulders, and she's quite beautiful. But while you're working with her, you get the feeling that she definitely thinks of you as a subordinate, which makes sense. She's been on the ship for years, and you've only been on board for a few months. Well, more like a year if you count the periods of time you were stuck in stasis in the pit. Regardless, you get the distinct impression that she is out of your league, so to speak. For now. As you draw near the station, contact with the system becomes spotty as minor warp storms roll through the area. You and Teresa try to make contact with the various patrons who had contracted with crew members, but communication was nearly impossible. When the storm subsided, you could make clean broadcasts again. But suddenly, you weren't getting any responses. Not from any of your clients. What do you mean you can't contact any of them? I'm not losing money because we had a bad connection. Start scanning the system. I want to know what in the hell's happened. Start with Forbearance Station. As Antorax scanned the system, he looked for random transmissions that he could pick up to maybe shed some light on the issue. As he did so, an image of the space station appeared on screen, and a slew of garbled communications ran in the background, almost like a stream of consciousness from a deranged mind. Forbearance Station was little more than a burnt-out husk floating in a debris field. The scanned voxcasts were distress transmissions made in a dozen alien tongues, and a few made in highly accented Low Gothic. Interesting. Well, something has shown up and is rampaging their way through this system. And that means one thing for us. Opportunity. Nothing quite says loot me like an ongoing conflict. Ready the ships. We have a mystery to solve and planets to plunder. As always, you are the main character of this story, and it is now up to you to shape the narrative and decide what to do next. Something terrible has happened in this system. Do you wish to find out what's happening? Or is the siren call of loot and plunder more appealing? The choice is yours. Do you want to investigate what's left of the space station and see if there are any clues or maybe even survivors? Do you want to investigate the system in general and see what forces might be fighting? Or do you want to look for vulnerable planets that are easy targets for pillaging? You may also post your own suggestions below, and these will be compiled into a poll for the community tab, where you can vote and decide your fate. No man do they call me. My mother and my father, and all my comrades as well. Thank you all for listening to this week's episode of Kazzazel's Merry Marauders. If you enjoyed what you heard, please leave a like and comment, as that will help the main character reach his goals, become a powerful member of the crew, and that will totally impress Teresa. If you are new to the channel and liked what you heard, please consider subscribing for more videos about how you can profit from cooperating with Xenos, mutants, and heretics. If you have no idea what's going on, you can also click on the playlist, which should be appearing on screen now. If you would like to support me, you can join me on Patreon or donate via PayPal. And I am now opening up commissions. If you have a piece of fiction that you would like me to read, I have an alternate channel where I intend to post commissioned voice work. So if you want me to turn your story into a proper audio story, complete with funny voices, you can message me at my email, which will be linked below, along with my alt channel. Thank you all very much. No Man out.